Hey there, beautiful lady. Welcome. You are listening to The Stylish CEO, the podcast for female entrepreneurs ready to step into their CEO role and be the face of their brand. I'm your host, Laura Jane, your very own personal stylist and women's empowerment coach. I'm a Nutella and ice cream addict, flamenco dancing Yorkshire lass with over 15 years experience of working in the fashion industry. Each week, we'll be diving into topics that cover style, business, and personal development, as well as guest interviews from leaders within their field who will be sharing their stories and expertise. So go grab yourself your favourite cuppa, sink into your favourite chair, and let's dive into these CEO game-changing conversations. Hi there, beautiful ladies. Welcome to another episode of The Stylish CEO. Today, I am so excited because I am joined by the beautiful Tarryn Brackett from Fit for Happiness. Tarryn is a life and mindset coach and works with women to master their mindsets, and she empowers them to stop people pleasing. She also helps them to set firm boundaries and claim their dream life. I am so excited to be joined on this episode by Tarryn today, and in this episode we're going to be talking about the power of mastering your mindset, and Tarryn gives us lots of golden nuggets throughout this episode that we can start implementing into our lives. And I really enjoyed speaking to her because I found what she was saying so powerful and I could completely relate to what she was saying. I think that as women especially, our mindset is something that we don't realise that we're in control of. And what Tarryn shares in this episode is really powerful because she gives us tips that we can start implementing into our lives today and start mastering our mindset so that we can live our lives to the full and being the true version of ourselves. So stay tuned and listen to what Tarryn has to share with us today. Before we get started with today's episode, I want to let you know that this episode is sponsored by my Facebook group, The Stylish Entrepreneur Tribe. This is an exclusive community for female entrepreneurs that empowers them to be as stylish as their brands. If you are ready to up-level within your business, start to become more visible by being your true stylish, authentic self through your personal style so that you can start showing your potential clients that you are the expert within your field, attract and become a magnet for your ideal clients, and then transform this into sales, then this group is for you. This community is a free, safe place for female entrepreneurs who are chasing their dreams, are fearless and have a desire to show that they are the experts through transforming their image so that they can represent their true stylish self because they know that their personal style plays an important role within their business because it is an extension of it. If this sounds like you, then head over to the show notes at girlbehindthelook.com/podcast where you will find the link to the Facebook group. Now let's kick off this episode. Hi there, beautiful ladies. Welcome to another episode. Today I'm joined by the beautiful Tarryn. I'm so excited for this episode. Hi Tarryn, how are you?
I'm doing really well, thank you. How are you?
I'm really good. I know it's really early in the morning for you where you are, but I really appreciate you coming onto this episode of the podcast today. So, do you want to just quickly tell the listeners a bit about you and what you do and what your business is?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a life coach. And so what that means is I help women master their mindsets, reach their goals. Sometimes they don't know what their goals are, so we help them plan out their goals. They just know that they feel stuck. So I help them get unstuck from where they are right now. And that's really just the beauty of my job is helping women transform their lives.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's very similar to what I do. And for me, there's nothing more beautiful than seeing a woman go through that transformation where she's feeling really confident in herself. And I imagine it's very similar for you as well when you work through that process with them. So today we're going to be talking about mastering your mindset. So do you want to tell us a bit more about that? Because obviously some of our listeners might not really know much about it.
Totally. Yeah. So for me, my belief in my business is that your thoughts create your reality. So everything that you think and everything around you is a product of you. That's kind of hard for some people to take because they think an outside circumstance is really what's causing whatever's going on in their life, but it's their reaction to that circumstance. So the beauty of that is that you get to choose all of your thoughts about everything going on around you, and you get to decide how those things affect you. So, kind of an example of that would be like a job. A job is a neutral circumstance, and you can have positive thoughts about that job or you can have negative thoughts about that job. And that's going to really determine your fulfillment, your happiness, everything like that.
Yeah, I can completely relate to that. I know personally, when I was working in my full-time job, I resented it because I really wanted to be working on my business. And I found that it really affected the way that I was going to work because I was in that
Mm-hmm.
negative mindset. But as soon as I kind of changed the way that I looked at it, and somebody said to me, think of it as a way that they're investing in you and your business. And as soon as I changed my mindset to that and suddenly was thinking, okay, well, I'm going to this job because it helps me to, work on my business and it's
Yeah.
funding my business, my whole mindset changed. And I think my attitude was a lot better because it gets you down. And when you feel down, it kind of, you resent being there. And
Mm-hmm.
the situation is, if you're in a full-time job, you need to be there in order to pay your bills. So you've got to kind of master your mindset, haven't you, to
Yeah.
make the best of the situation that you're in.
Exactly. And that was such a beautiful thought too, that they're investing in you. So you chose a thought that was really serving you and helped you get through that situation. And that's kind of what I like to do, is help people find the thoughts that serve them best.
Mm.
Because walking around thinking, oh my gosh, this job is just taking up all my time, I won't be able to go home and work on my business because I'll be so exhausted, like that doesn't serve you at all. It
No,
doesn't help you get to your goal.
no. So what are the things that we can kind of do to master our mind? Have you got any like tips that right now in our lives to kind of take a step and master that mindset?
Yeah. So, what I like to do is use something called the model, and I have it written out in my freebie, which we'll talk about later. But basically, the idea of it is that you're taking your thought and mapping out exactly how it gets you the results. So you can start to become aware of what your unintentional models are and then create intentional models. First thing to do is just identify the thought that you're having. So, in another example, let's say you've just come out of a really bad relationship and you say, I'm not worthy of love. That's an unintentional model. So you can take that thought then, and the circumstance in that situation is relationships. Those are neutral. Your last relationship was neither bad nor good. You just have certain thoughts about it. So, with this model, then, relationships is the circumstance. The thought is, I'm not worthy of love. The next thing you want to do is really get in tune with your body and see, how does that make you feel when you think that thought? What's the actual physical thing coming up for you? And for me, if I were thinking that I'm not worthy of love, that would make me feel anxious. It would make me feel depressed. And then my actions based on that probably wouldn't be very good. So my actions would be talking badly about myself, letting my physical appearance go, not eating healthily, not sleeping right. And the result of that is I'm not going to be the kind of person that attracts the next good person in my life to have that good relationship. So it becomes kind of this spiral where someone is thinking these bad thoughts and getting the exact results, because our brains like to do this thing where they find evidence of the thoughts that you're having. And if there is no evidence, they will create it.
Yeah, I completely once again relate to that because I was in a situation where I didn't believe that I were worthy of love. And I can't remember what the book was called, but I remember reading it, and there was like this powerful part of it that really stuck with me, where they were saying that if you see people outside on the street and they're, embracing and kissing, like
Hmm.
we naturally have this reaction as like, oh, get a room kind of thing, like we don't want to see that. But it's like what you were talking about, because it's the negative attitude that you're taking, that thought, and you're going, oh, I don't want to see that. But actually, when you take that and go, oh, well, they're in love, kind of attitude towards it, it completely changes how you are. And so I kind of took that on board, and I found that it did really help me, because suddenly I wasn't resenting people for being in
Hmm.
a relationship and being in love. And like you say, when I was in that space, I was not attracting people to me.
Right.
It's a powerful thing, our mind, isn't it? And the way that
Yeah.
it works.
Yeah. And sometimes people have a really hard time identifying what that unintentional thought is. So if you can really practice getting in tune with your body and identifying and naming what those emotions are when they come up, that will start to help you feel, or start to help you become aware of the thoughts that are behind those feelings. So like, in this example, if I just felt unworthy of love but couldn't name that thought, I might identify those emotions first and then say, what's the thought behind my anxiety and my depression? Like, what's actually the cause of that? And work towards it that way. In some models, you can also start backwards and say, okay, this is the result that I have. Why did I get this result? So let's say, you're in your own business, and you wanted to make $1,000 worth of sales and you didn't make that. You can say, well, these are the actions that I took that got me these results. When I was taking these actions, I felt, and when I felt that way, I thought, and that kind of gets you back to, okay, this was the mindset behind everything I was doing this past month, and that's why I didn't get the results I wanted.
Hey there, beautiful lady. I'm interrupting this episode because I've got a question for you. Are you ready to figure out your personal style once and for all and have a bigger impact on your potential clients so that you can make more money? If the answer is yes, then you really want to check out my free ultimate guide to unlocking your personal style. In this guide, I share with you 8 steps that you can implement into your wardrobe today so that you can have more impact with your potential clients. So if you're interested in getting this, make sure you check out my show notes for this episode, where you'll find the link to grab your copy. Now let's go back to the episode. Yeah, I think what you're talking about is something that we often neglect as well. I think we don't actually take that time out to really think
Mm-hmm.
about why we are feeling the way that we're feeling, and why we haven't got them results that we were desiring. Often we just start getting in that negative mindset, don't we, where we start blaming ourselves and beating ourselves up. And I know that's something in the past that I've been a victim of, like this mentality that we are our own biggest critic, I think, more than anything.
Yeah.
And like the words that you say to yourself and not nice, we're very unkind to ourselves. So I think what you're talking about is something that we should learn to implement into our lives at least
Mm-hmm.
once a month. And I don't know if you agree with that, or whether you think we should be like every week we should be doing that.
I do it daily. I
Yeah.
honestly, I take out my journal and I write down all the thoughts that I'm having, and then I can, I just word vomit basically onto the page
Yeah. Yeah.
and let everything come out. And then I can start to identify some of the thoughts that maybe I should take a little bit further and kind of explore. And so I like to do that daily. And it's,
Mm.
it's a practice. You have to get into the habit of it for sure. But if you can do it every once in a while just to start, that brings up the awareness. And like, what really changed my life was the thought that everything was in my control. So I get to choose how everything in my life is.
Mm.
And that was really just mind boggling for me, of like, oh my gosh. So all of these circumstances that I had in my past, like, a bad relationship or a bad job, like those were all in my control the whole time, but I was letting it feel like nothing was in my control.
Yeah, I think again, I really, really like resonate with that, because there's so many times that you think that it's an outside source when it's very much
Mm-hmm.
you are. And that's something that when I work with my clients for personal styling, they often think that they're not in control of the opinions that people have of them, when in fact we are, and we are in control of that. And the way that you feel and the way that you represent yourself is a representation of how people react to you, and it's
Yeah.
something that we really forget about in
Yeah.
our lives.
Sometimes I ask my clients too, I say, is it any of your business what they think of you?
Yeah, that's true.
And yeah. And sometimes, like, I had a client yesterday, she was telling me that she had a disagreement with her sister and she wanted to call her out. And I was like, what would be the intention of that? What's the point? Does it
Yeah.
matter what she thinks? And, the answers to that are also totally fine, whatever she comes up with.
Mm.
But it's just something to think about. Like, is it any of your business what they think of you?
Yeah, it's also going that level deeper, isn't it? And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's often something that we don't kind of take a step back from it. We kind of just react instantly rather than, and lash out at people, when actually, if you take a step back and, like you've been saying, really think, well, why am I feeling this way? Is it something to do with the person, or is it something that it's kind of sparked up in myself, and it's
Yeah.
something that I need to deal with. But I think it's
Yeah.
about taking that step back when you're having the feelings, and then recognizing why you're feeling that way.
Yeah. And I think you could probably see with your clients too, like if they're worried about a judgment from someone else, it's probably a judgment they have about themselves.
Themselves, exactly. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Or like sometimes I say that sometimes it's nothing to even do with, the way that somebody reacts towards you. Sometimes not a reflection of you. Sometimes it is a reflection of the person, because they're working through their own things. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's something that we have to remember. And that's why I think the advice that you've given about, like really coming back to why am I feeling that way is very
Mm-hmm.
valuable, because we don't do that. We just instantly lash out, and then we're not really thinking about the reasons why. And if it's to do with me, why am I feeling that way, or is it to do with something that they're going through? And like, if it's not anything to do with you, like maybe they're just lashing out because they need support from you.
Yeah.
It's like, it's recognizing them situations, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's sometimes really difficult to take that step back and like zoom out.
Mm.
So that's why having, a coach in multitude of situations. So like with you coach people on their personal style, and having somebody take a step back and like be able to pull you out with them is
Yeah.
really helpful sometimes.
Yeah. So I have really enjoyed our conversation today. But I know that like some of the ladies that are listening will want to connect with you. So can you tell us where we can find you on social media and what your website is?
Yeah, absolutely. So my business name is Fit for Happiness Life Coaching. So my website is fitforhappiness.com. On Instagram, that's where I'm most active. It's just Instagram at Fit for Happiness 365, because I think that you're fit for happiness 365 days out of the year.
Yeah, I
um,
love that. I
uh,
really love that.
Same thing on Facebook. So I have a business page there, Fit for Happiness 365. And then, yeah, that's where most of my time is spent on Instagram. So if you want to DM me or anything like that, I'd be happy to chat.
Yeah, and ladies, you can find all their links to everything in the show notes. And I know that you mentioned earlier at the beginning when we were talking your freebie that you've got. So do you want to tell
Hmm.
us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so it is a guide that kind of dives deeper into the thought mapping process and how you can do that in your own life. It's got a worksheet to take you through the steps, um, and just help you identify what the unintentional models are, and then help you make an intentional model so that you can practice intentional thinking. And again, it's something that I do daily. So if you have any questions about it, you want to grab it, I think you've got the link there.
Yeah. Again, they
and
can find it in the show notes as well.
So if you try it out, like, let me know how it goes. And if you need help with it, I'm happy to talk about it with you.
Yeah, that's amazing. It sounds really, really like a valuable tool that you're providing.
Thank you.
And I know I love how you talk about the intentional, because I personally do intentional shopping. So I love that we've got that connection there, because it's really, you've got to have a purpose behind everything and have an intention. So I love that we've got that connection there with the intention. The last question that I want to ask you, and a question that I'm asking all my guests that come onto this podcast, is I believe that we are on a journey in life. So when you get into a car, you always have a playlist that like sets you up for the journey that you're about to embark on. So what would your theme song be? This can either be the song that's got to you to this point, or it can be a song that's taking you on your next part of your journey. What would that song be for you?
The song is Younger Now by Miley Cyrus.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
Yeah. I think that represents where I am now and where I'm going.
Yeah, that's a good song. When I asked you that question, I didn't think you was going to say that song whatsoever. So I love this question, because what you think people are going to say is like completely not what they're going to say. So ladies, if you want to go check out the song for that, then you can find it in the playlist on Spotify that accompanies this podcast, and you will find that in the show notes as well. So massive thank you for joining us today, and what you've provided is amazing. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Me too. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Ladies, I hope that you've enjoyed this episode today with Tarryn. I really enjoyed speaking with her because she provided so much value, like I said at the beginning of this episode. And I think that the steps that she's given us to master the power of our mind is really helpful, and something that you can start implementing into our lives straight away. If you want to take advantage and grab Tarryn's amazing freebie and implement what she's taught us in this episode into your life, you can do this by heading to girlbehindthelook.com/podcast, where you will find all the show notes and links to Tarryn, as well as the playlist that accompanies this podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I will see you soon for another episode of The Stylish Entrepreneur. I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Stylish CEO. If you loved this episode as much as I did, head over and rate and subscribe so you never miss another episode. New episodes drop each week on a Tuesday and Thursday, so you don't want to miss out. I would love to hear more from you on what you thought about this episode and the topics that you want to hear. I also want to shout about you and your business, so each week I will be choosing someone who leaves a review or comment to share with the Stylish CEO audience. Check out the show notes at girlbehindthelook.com/podcast for more information. I can't wait to hang out with you again soon. Until next time, beautiful lady, this is Laura Jane signing off.